Yes. What's happening, everybody? It's Wednesday night. It's a little after 10 o'clock Central Time. I'm a little bit late today. Just had dinner. Just scarfed down a burrito from next door. Place, it's awesome. Taqueria Zacatecana. Fantastic stuff. Now I've got some food in my belly. Got a little water here. And I'm ready to talk fights. UFC Austin. 13 fights on this card. Headlined by Arman Tsarukyan versus Beneil Dariush. And I've got all my stats ready for you guys. I've got my matchup stats. I've got my individual fighter stats. I've got the prop template. I've got the significant strikes template. I've got my database of every fight that's ever happened in the UFC since the year 2013. So I've got all the answers to your data-driven questions that you have about any of the fighters or fights on this UFC card. So hop in the chat, join me, ask me some questions, and let's figure out ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this card, make these bookies cry, and make some money while we're watching our favorite sport. And this is going to be a pretty good fight card here. It's much better than the one that's coming up next week. Not as good as the week after that, though, but either way, only 3 cards left this year before we're going to have a month off before we finally kick off again. I believe around January 12th, I think, is the first card of the year 2024. So with only 3 weeks left in the year, we got to finish strong and we got to figure out some ways to make some money. So hello to everybody that's watching live right now. Let's figure out some ways to do this. Let's see who's in the chat with us. And by the way, I do have this today with you guys here. This is the prop template available on your Uncle Weezy's Patreon. The address for that is scrolling along the bottom of the screen. These are the advanced stats, which are available for $10 a month. You can find the advanced matchup stats for all the fights on every card of the year for joining the Patreon for that. And we also got the basic stats, but that's another spreadsheet. We don't need to see that because this one has more information than the basic stats. So I've got those stats ready. I've got the prop template ready. And I've also got the significant strikes template ready. So we can talk about prize picks. We can talk about underdog. We can talk about any of the props that we got going for significant strikes, takedowns, fantasy score, fight time. And the fight time also works really good with the prop template that we have. So I got all the answers, you guys. Now, I need you hoes to supply the questions for your Uncle Weezy, because Ask Weezy is an okay show, right? It's okay, but it can only be made better by you guys asking me the right questions so that we can all share this information and find the best spots to cash our tickets on Saturday. What's up with you guys? Who's out here today? Who's with me? My guy Kiwi Brew's with me. He's saying, sure all. What's up, Eli? Good to see you hanging out in here, my man. Let me know if you got any questions about any of the fighters or fights on this card. We got my guy Victor De Jesus in the room saying, oi, yes. What's up, Weezy in chat? Let's stack them this weekend. Let's get it, man. Always ready to do that, especially with only 3 cards left in the year. We got to finish strong, man. And Victor's saying, hey, Weezy, any spots you would consider max betting this week? Money line, props, etc. This is a question I wish somebody would ask me every week, because it's a fantastic question. You know, it just judges confidence. You know, if you're very confident about something, you know, it might be something you want to throw 5 units on so that you can profit from it as much as possible, knowing that there's a very small probability that you're going to lose those 5 units. So the first thing that sticks out this week for me, Victor, it would be the under 1.5 rounds for the Brundage fight. Now, when that was at minus 200, we could see that 5 of 7 Brundage fights have finished under 1.5 rounds. So that's 71%. And with Zach Reese, you get a guy who's literally only been out of the first round once in his entire pro and amateur career. So if we were to go to Tapology here and we were to go to the fight night and we go to look at Brundage's opponent, Zach Reese. Zach Reese has had 6 fights in his pro career, And now those 6 fights have lasted a grand total of less than 10 minutes. As you can see, 114, 52 seconds, 33 seconds, 50 seconds, 4 minutes and 13 seconds, and a minute 32. And then you look at his amateur career, he did go to decision against somebody named Kevin Holland. Never heard of him, right? But he did go to decision with one Kevin Holland way back in 2012. And then there were a lot of canceled bouts. I don't know why these bouts were canceled, but it looked like Reese was looking for fights but not getting them. And then, yes, he goes 30 seconds with Wageman, a minute 20 with Bradford, and then actually 2 minutes and 20 seconds into round 2. But these are 3-minute rounds. So the longest he's ever been in a fight is a total of 5 minutes and 20 seconds. That was the Parker Didier fight back in 2021, February. So I do think for a guy that's never really even seen a second round as a professional, combined with the fact that Cody Brundage is a guy that's really such a killer be killed fighter, under 1.5 rounds at minus 200-ish is something that I think is worth a big straight bet. I parlayed it up. I didn't have the balls to full on go for it, but I think that that's a great spot for this week. I mean, the money lines, I'm not confident in a lot of these favorites money lines this week. So I don't think that there's anything there that's really jumping out at me. So none of these money lines I feel are something that I would make a big bet on. Even as big of a fraud as I think Ihor Peterier is, for instance, I'm still not laying minus 400 on Rodolfo Bellato in his UFC debut. There are so many things that can go wrong in a debut. So yeah, I mean, I would say, Victor, that the best line that I really like this week is the under 1.5 rounds. But I would rather even if there are alternative over-unders yet, like for instance, you could go the under 2.5 at minus 410. I don't think that's terrible. Or maybe a fight doesn't start round 3. That would be a way to get just a little bit more time. Find a little bit more time for Brundage to quit, or Reese to find a submission or a big shot, or Brundage to find a big shot, because we don't know what Reese would look like in round 2, and if he adrenaline dumps or has massive nerves, then Brundage could easily finish this guy. So that would be the spot, I'd say, Vic. We got Antonio Esparza in the room. What's up, dude? Saying, "Oi, what's up, Unc? What's up?" Is I'm ready to talk fights. So let me know if you got any questions, brother. We got TH saying, "Oi, what's up, Unc? How do you feel about Avila giving her 2.5-year layoff?" See, when I see layoffs that long, what it takes me into the territory, TH, of saying now I got to worry more about narrative issues. And I don't like to pay attention to narrative issues when I'm making financial decisions. This is something that I think that the data, the best data that we have of a fighter is how they've looked in the cage previously, right? That's the truest representation of them. And things that come out of their mouth are just things that come out of their mouth. They might be true, they might not. They might be lying, they might be being honest, but it's hard to make those decisions. But with somebody that's been away for 2.5 years, not only because of a knee reconstruction, but also having a baby, coming back after that long, 2.5 years at this point, leaves me with more questions than I have answers. And when I have more questions than answers, then it'd be bad for me to make a decision based on that. If I got questions that aren't answered, then I don't want to make a choice, without that information. That's what I call missing information. And what I know about Miesha Tate is that just from what I've seen from her lately, she just doesn't have it. There's no reason to really bet on Miesha Tate from what I've seen from her in the cage over the last 2.5 years. Not a reason to bet on her. Now with Avila, you're laying juice on Avila, and you have even more questions, than Miesha Tate has, because at least Miesha Tate's just been a little bit busier over the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm not touching that fight. That's the 1-800 gambler fight of the week, and I'm completely staying away from it And that's how I feel about Avila's 2.5-year layoff. We got my guy Brady in the room saying, "Oi, what's going on, Brady?" We got Antonio Esparza saying, "As a Mexican unk, I know what you had. I need to know what you had in that burrito. Steak, beans, onions, cilantro, salsa." Of course, I put some salsa in there. I don't get sour cream in my burritos. I don't get lettuce in my burritos. So yeah, it's just steak, beans, cheese, and onions and cilantro. And I got some of the best red salsa that I've ever had. Really spicy. Love it. That's what I had, my man. We got Nacho Buddy Chief in the room saying, "Oi, what's happening?" We got Pickle Kush saying, "Oi, thoughts on +3.5 Hardy? The line keeps growing, and women's MMA is wild." Yeah, it certainly is. But this is something we were just showing on the DFS show with my guy DFS by the Numbers that we just did on Pub Sports Radio an hour ago, and it is the Jamie Lynn Horth line movement. And I don't know if you can see that, but like you're talking about a line that's went from -112, -107 here late night on the 25th. Here again on the 27th, late night, 8:48 a.m., -105. Now she's -194. Seems like there's maybe somebody knows something. Maybe some people have access to information that we don't, because you usually don't see lines moving 13, 14, 15% in implied probability on a money line, especially middle of the fight week too. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on here. And don't forget that Horth has finished 5 of her 6 pro wins. The only one she didn't finish was Haley Cohen. And Haley Cohen is really big, really strong, up a weight class, really explosive and strong athlete. And she held up Jamie Lynn against that cage, for a long time. I think we're going to see a little more violence, a little more striking in this fight. And I think that that Horth might potentially finish her. So I don't particularly love it, but Hardy's money line has went from like +100 now to +170 here in less than 48 hours. So I mean, I don't hate anybody getting on the Hardy side right now, because now I'm thinking the value is kind of shifted over to her half of the money line, and that's assuming that she's completely healthy and ready to go for this fight. We got my guy Martin Dermov in the room saying, "Oh, yes, what's up, dude? The big printer hanging out with us. Let me know if you got any questions, brother." We got Immaculaton saying, "Oi, been making my bones in NBA, but back for some UFC. I had early action with Hooker versus Ann Roundtree. This show will help." Yeah, man. So, yeah, Hooker and Roundtree no longer, because now Roundtree is not fighting this week against Azmat Mirzakhanov. He's fighting next week against Anthony Smith. And then we've got, Hooker out, Jalen Turner in to face Bobby King Green. So, yeah, let me know if you got any questions. But like the one prize picks play that I put in for this week was the over 1.5 takedowns for Wellington Turman. And then I had the under 10 minutes for Melchizel Costa fight time, but now that's been moved down to 7.5. The under 1.5 rounds in the Costa Garcia fight, I've got a big bet on that, 1.5 units at +132. And that line has moved quite a bit. Let's see where that is at on Bet Online right now. Martial arts, MMA, UFC Austin. Garcia Costa under 1.5 is now +105. So I got it at +132. I got it at a much better price. But yeah, that was what I did on Prize Picks. So that's something you can look at. What else? Oh, we can if anybody has any questions about significant strikes, I got all the information. Who's my favorite finish props this week, says Nacho Buddy Chief. All right. So Melk Costa inside the distance. Minus 120. I don't like that. It's too much juice. What's Horth inside the distance? Plus 270 for Jamie Horth inside the distance, I think is a decent look this week. I like Wellington Turman by decision. Plus 155. I'd like to get a much better number than that. Let's see if when you get these props, you got to look at places like Bet Rivers. You get so much juicier props there, but they don't have anything yet. So, what else we got here? Bellato inside the distance is probably juice to the tits. Minus 250. No thanks. Don't like that one. I mean, I think he shaves his ass, but I mean, that's just too much of a price to pay. Close Selecki, I think that one goes to the scorecards. Brundage Reese. It's Cody Brundage inside the distance. Plus 285 for Cody Brundage inside the distance. I don't think that's bad. Horth inside the distance is decent. Brundage inside the distance is decent. Tate Avila is the 1-800 gambler fight of the week. We're not touching that. Puna Hele Soriano rounds 1 and 2. Nacho Buddy Chief. That's right now available here on Bet Rivers. If we go to fight parlays. No, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for winning group of rounds. Puna Hele Soriano rounds 1 and 2 at plus 112. Get your Uncle Weezy's stamp of approval. And that is a bet that I might be making as a tracked bet. I do think that if Soriano wins this fight, and he should, because Stoltzfus isn't great anywhere. But he's got to do it early. The conditioning just isn't there. Joaquim Silva inside. What's Clay Guida inside the distance? That would be a fat number, plus 300 or better, I would think. Plus 500 for Clay Guida inside the distance. Now, I just want to remind you that, yeah, he probably doesn't win this fight, but Joaquim Silva recently was slept by Ricky Glenn in less than 30 seconds. The only person that Nasrat Haqparast knocked out in the UFC, and Nasrat Haqparast has 7 UFC wins. The only guy he knocked out, Joaquim Silva. Silva's kind of chinny, you guys. And I think he can get hit with something that he doesn't see coming and wind up face down on the canvas. So Clay Guida at plus 500, I think, I mean, obviously it would be a very small bet, but I don't think that's a bad finish prop. And let's see if there's anything else. Gastelum Brady, Figueiredo. You know, I don't mind the Figueiredo finish only prop at minus 115. I think that Figueiredo is the far more explosive guy, but I also am tentative just because of him moving up a weight class. You know, Font probably hits way harder than a lot of the guys that he faced at 125. So I don't know. I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. What's Jalen Turner inside the distance? Plus 105. That's not bad. You know, I think it's the fatter ones. I think it's Horth. I think it's Guida at plus 500. Let's see. And we talked about one other one. Puna Hele Soriano plus money to win in rounds 1 and 2. Those would be my favorites, my man. We got my people, the Chronic Combat Conversations crew in the room saying, "Oi, how do we maintain a luxurious flow like yourself?" Okay, so it's those people who say lather, rinse, repeat. Those people are fucking amateurs. We don't repeat, okay? We lather, we rinse. And here's the fucking key. Once a week. Once a week. We only wash the hair once a week. The natural oils that come out into our hair is what makes it look smooth, what makes it look luxurious, what gives us that Fabio wavy flow. You know, remember the old I can't believe it's not butter commercials where Fabio would be standing there shirtless with that beautiful head of hair and he'd have that tray in front of him and he said, I can't believe it's not butter, right? That's the only impression that I do, by the way, is Fabio from the from because if we do the hair, this is Fabio. Here, wait, I've actually got my brush here, right? All right, so we get the hair. Hang on just a second, you guys. There we go, right? And we kind of, gotta, there we go. Part it kind of in the middle here. Get a little bit right there. And we got that. And we go, I can't believe it's not butter. That's the only impression that I do, but we can get the stats back up on the screen. Yeah, that's what we have to do, man. We wash the hair once a week, only once a week. That way, the oils kind of creep in after a couple of days, and that's usually when it looks its best. We don't strip our hair of its natural minerals and oils that it desperately needs in order to look good. So that, my friends, over at Chronic Combat Conversations, is how your Uncle Weezy maintains a luxurious flow. And as an added bonus, you got to see me do my impression of Fabio in the I can't believe it's not butter commercials. You're fucking welcome. All right. There we go. Nacho Buddy Chief asking me if I think Brundage gets subbed. This kid Reese has got a pretty good submission game. He had a really nice high elbow guillotine finish when somebody shot in on a takedown on him. I think that he's very live to get a submission or a knockout. But the problem is that you have to pay through the nose for it. All this guy's wins are in round one. So maybe what we do instead of playing submission or knockout, because this kid's got 2 submissions and he's got 4 knockouts, maybe you just play the round. Maybe you say, hey, we have no evidence that this guy can finish outside of round one. So maybe we take that plus 135 in round one. And I'm sure we could do better than that on books that aren't bet online necessarily. But, Zach Reese inside the distance is, minus 190. That's so expensive. This guy's never fought a UFC level guy before, So Reese by points plus 575. If this fight went 15 minutes, I would be absolutely shocked. KO plus 180, submission plus 215. It's a dangerous game to play that game, the KO submission game, for somebody that's likely to finish 80% of these fights, let's say. The bookies are not expecting this one to see the scorecards. So somebody's going to get a finish. But when you got the guy Reese saying, it's about the same odds for him to get the KO or the submission, it means that that's a dangerous fighter because they got more than one way to get to the goal, which is to win, to shave ass. So I think he could absolutely get subbed, especially if he gets sloppy on a takedown, because this guy does have a nice high elbow guillotine that I've seen him finish with. So, yeah, I think it's a possibility either one of these guys gets subbed or knocked out, because somebody is very likely to get served in that fight, Nacho. We got my guy Martin in the room saying, have you ever considered betting like 1 unit every week on the ass shaving of the week? Understand some are big faves, but I feel like you easily hit 80% of ass shavings. Probably would be up on the year. No, I think you're right about that. And I think that would be something, if I did do that, Martin, going forward, I think that I'm going to even write that shit down. Just give me a second, guys. 1 unit every week on ASOTW, and then just track it and maybe keep a spreadsheet, because that would also, because I oftentimes I pick the fight that I think is gonna end the most violently, so sometimes I'll take a minus 300-400 favorite, and other times I'll just take somebody that might even be like plus 100, plus 120, like Vyacheslav Borshov was a couple of weeks ago. But I thought, if this guy wins, man, he's gonna knock this dude out. And god damn, is Nazim Sadikov durable. he took so many shots in that fight. But I think that's an excellent idea because it would keep me very accountable to not just give you the pick that I think was going to win most volatilely or most violently, I should say, but also get guys that I think I truly am the most confident in this guy getting the job done at the right price. So if I were to do that, I think that would be a very good idea. And it could be something that I could keep a graphic of and we could make it part of the weekly segment. I think that's a really good idea, Martin. I appreciate that. Yeah, that would be a cool stat to pull at the end of the year, because if I wanted to do that now, I would have to go back to however many shows I've done this year for just the tip. And but it's a good thing I timestamp them. So I could actually go back and just be like, all right, here's the ass shaving of the week. Here's the pick. It hit. And here's what the line was. So yeah, that would be really interesting. I think it's a great idea. And I think I'll probably start doing that next year. We've got Lone Wolf DFS is in the room, and there are 3 wolves on that icon right there. My guy Lone Wolf, good to see you hanging out in here. Let me know if you got any questions this week. We got Rem Dog in the room saying, "Oi, grinding at the poker table right now, Weezy. I'll catch up later." Question: I think Jalen Turner is just showing up for a check. Do you like the over 1.5? So my prop template really likes the over 1.5. I'll show you what the prop template says for this, right? The over 1.5 is actually a trifecta bet at minus 185 right now. Minus 185 gives us about a 65% price of the line. The implied probability of the line, 64.91%. I call that the price of the line. Now, 66.88% of lightweight fights go over 1.5 rounds. So that's priced 2% cheaper than what the benchmark for the division is. 5 of 10 Jalen Turner fights in the UFC scheduled for 3 rounds have went over 1.5. But for Bobby Green, the guy with the bigger sample size, it's 17 of 21. That is over 80%. So the guy that we have the bigger sample size is very rarely finishing fights or getting finished inside of 7.5 minutes. So when you add up those two, you get a weighted average of about 71% of their 31 fights. We got a really nice sample size that we're drawing from here. And the bigger the sample size, the more reliable the data is, right? So this particular price at minus 185 is telling us that we're underpriced when we compare that benchmark to the price. We're underpriced when we compare the 71% over 1.5 rate for these two guys combined in the UFC to the price in the line, which is only 65%. And when we look at these guys going over 1.5 rounds 71% of the time, and the division only does it about 67% of the time, that's underpriced as well. Underpriced in that metric, and that metric. We call that a trifecta bet. And what it means is that we don't know how the fight's going to turn out, right? But we do have this big sample size of information that can give us some benchmarks. And we can also use that ability to turn the betting line into an implied probability to give us what our price is and determine, are we overpaying for this based on the metrics that we have available to us, or are we underpaying? We're underpaying for the overs here. So that's what the prop template's telling us to do. Now, it's a Jalen Turner fight, man, so I think that this, could absolutely end under 1.5 rounds and end violently. And don't forget, Jalen Turner has something like 41 or 42% distance striking defense. So he's hittable. So Green is a guy who's accurate, fast, and he can hit this guy and he could fall down too. So there's a lot of things that can happen here. The data thinks that the over 1.5 at minus 185 is an underpriced value that has some line. It thinks it's plus EV. How you look at the fight, people can look at the fight differently and see different things, but that's what the data is telling us, Run Dog. We got get the orderlies ready for TH. Yeah, do not bet on that Tate Avila fight, TH. Otherwise, the orderlies will be coming for you. My guy, Lou Betya is saying, Weezy, rough few weeks for me. Cheer me up, my brother. Dude, what can we cheer up Lou Betya with? I mean, because we know that our guy Lou is one of the jewels of the community here. And he just came off of his birthday here and on Thanksgiving. So let's see. It is Cody Brundage fight week, Lou, and who doesn't love a good redemption story, right? Think about all the redemption stories. I mean, like even Michael Vick was fighting dogs and was a pariah just about 10, 15 years ago. And now they put him on NFL Sunday and they pretend to give a shit what he thinks about the Eagles game, right? How about the redemption story of Tiger Woods, basically almost getting the shit beaten out of him by his wife because he got caught cheating, drives his car into a fucking fire hydrant. And then, the cops show up and he blatantly lies to them and everyone wonders what's going on with Tiger. Hey, fast forward a couple of years, this guy's winning the fucking Masters, right? You got guys like who's been canceled recently that's like maybe come back from that. Boy, if we could only raise Morton Downey Jr. from the dead, one of my favorite political analysts from back in the day, that will be a great redemption story. The redemption story of the week being Cody Brundage knocking out Zach Reese in the first round. That could be a redemption story that puts a smile on our guy Lou Betch's face. And I think that might be it. So I hope you're doing well, my brother. Let me know if you need anything. You got my number. We got my guy French Potato is in the room saying flame burrito. Oh, dude, I'm telling you, Taqueria Zacatecana, good people. Stand up, Taqueria Zacatecana. Their steak over there will melt in your mouth, and it is absolutely delicious. We got Link Whale saying, what part of Chicago are you in? I love Enjoy on Milwaukee Avenue. Yeah, I'm almost like I'm not quite like walking distance from Enjoy, but I'm over on California and Diversey in the Avondale neighborhood. So like if I just go a little bit south down California, I hit Milwaukee, and then from there, I think I would take a left and I would go up to Wicker Park to get over to Enjoy. So yeah, I'm not far from you, Link Whale, at all. We got Victor De Jesus saying, hey, which one of the favorites you think is going to shit in the apple pie? Man, I think that there are several that can do it. Like, we were talking about it on Just a Tip, right? I'll go through it here. Cody Brundage, he's more experienced. He's the better wrestler. He's fought the better brand of competition. So he's got big power on the feet, and we know what this guy can do outside of the first round. We know we've seen him go to decision several times in his career. So we just got a lot more information about Brundage, and there are paths to victory for him here. Beneil Dariush, this guy, the market gets him wrong all the time. Dude, he was plus 170 underdog to Mateus Gamrot, and he won that fight. And then the market makes him a favorite to Charles Oliveira, and that was completely wrong. And now the market is swung completely the other way because I think a lot of people got tricked, because they were wrong about him on the Gamrot fight. So then they were like, fuck, Beneil's back. He's going to beat Charles. And when he didn't beat Charles, predictably, they said, oh, now he's done. So now it swung the pendulum back too far the other way. And I think that if you, and here's what I said on Just a Tip about Tsarukyan. Yeah, he's 7 years younger. You got to love that. He's a lot more explosive. You got to love that. He's shown that he's very, very durable. You got to love that. He's went a full 5 rounds with Mateus Gamrot at a high grappling pace. You've got to love that because we've never seen Dariush out of the 3rd round. He's more durable. Dariush has been finished in 5 of his losses, all 5 of them inside the distance, finishes, 4 knockouts, 1 submission. So Tsarukyan's more durable. But if you just say, like, who's the better striker? Man, I think it might be Dariush. If you ask me who's the better wrestler, I think it might be Dariush. If you ask me who's the better submission grappler, oh, that's definitely Dariush. This guy's a world no-gi champion. Okay? So there's a lot of reasons to like Beneil Dariush on paper, so he could absolutely surprise some people this week. Jared Gooden, he needs to do is land one big shot. That dude's got power. So the Wellington Turman could shit in the apple pie if he gets a little bit too comfortable on the feet and doesn't see one coming. Is Ihor Peterier gonna beat Rodolfo Bellato? Probably not, but I mean, dude, it's 205-pound dudes. These guys connect. It could be lights out. So I mean, even Bellato could fuck this up, but I don't think it'll be him. Steve Garcia's got a ton of power, dude. That guy's got a ton of power. He could end Melk's night early. Look, Vic, any one of these guys can shit in the apple pie. We're not going to talk about Tate Avila. Dude, Soriano is minus 305. This guy's terrible. If he doesn't land a big left hand, we've never seen him do anything to suggest outside of landing one big left hand that he can win at this level. The only guy we saw him win a decision against was Jamie Pickett, the Night Wolf. So, I mean, I would never lay minus 305 on Punahele Soriano. I mean, but I do like plus money for the rounds 1 and 2 because the guy's conditioning is deplorable. I mean, dude, he go back and you watch just the most recent fight for Soriano, full camp against Kopylov, and look at him on the stool between the first and second rounds. He's already dead. He's taking gigantic big breaths 1 minute into round number 2. I don't care how many body kicks you eat. You just should not be fucking done for after 6 minutes in a pro mixed martial arts fight. That's shit you see on the regional scene. That's not UFC level. So, I mean, I could see Soriano shitting in the apple pie. I could see Tsarukyan shitting in the apple pie. I could see Reese shitting in the apple pie. I could see Costa shitting in the apple pie. Bellato, Turman. I mean, it could happen with any of them. And ring a ding, you guys. First donation in a very long time. My guy Victor de Ace Deuce with $20 saying, thank you for blessing us with your time and stats, Unc. I appreciate you for blessing this channel with the donation. It means an absolute ton. I don't get paid shit to show up here to YouTube for you guys. So getting a donation like this is huge. Truly appreciate you, Victor. And I love answering your questions because you always have some of the best questions here in the room. So I truly appreciate you, my man. We got Justin J saying, oi, howdy, Uncle Weezy, and greetings to chat. Good to see you hanging out in here, Justin. We got Teratea in the room saying, sure, Uncle. Still looking for an addition to a 2-leg parlay. I really like Costa for the first leg. Was going to put Reese in, but the more I look into the fight, it feels risky. How about the under 1.5 rounds for Reese versus Brundage? Because if this guy does completely die on the stool after one round, has a massive adrenaline dump, has nerves, the live crowd in Austin, which is not far from his home in Shiner, Texas. There's a lot of reasons that things could go wrong for Reese here, but a lot of those things that could go wrong for Reese could lead to a Brundage finish. And we already know that Brundage is a guy that has been finished several times in the UFC, most of the times early. So definitely like the under 1.5 rounds. I think that's a great parlay piece this week. So why don't you parlay Melk Costa with the under 1.5 rounds for Vieira versus Brundage? Not Vieira versus Brundage. That fight already happened. And that cashed. But for Zach Reese versus Brundage, I think it's a great one. And Justin J saying, oh my God, swear to God, dead ringer. There we go, man. For sure. Dude, and by the way, yes, and Matt R, I do have a video explaining my advanced stats. Let me find that video for you guys. YouTube. My videos. Live. Did I do it live? I don't know if I did it live or not. There it is. Copy that. So I just put the link into the chat there. But if you go to YouTube and you go to my channel, the title of the video is New Look Advanced Stats Tier added to the Patreon. And it takes you through all the segments of the advanced stats, and it will tell you what all the acronyms mean and what everything is. So that's a great question. I appreciate you asking that, Matt. And it is available right there on my YouTube channel. New Look Advanced Stats Tier added to the Patreon. Check it out, Lo. All right, you guys. Let's move on to the next one. We got my guy Martin Durnoff saying that was a good Fabio impression. I personally prefer the watermelon. Yeah, dude, that's the only other impression. I don't do impressions, you guys. So when I bust something out like Fabio and the I can't believe it's not butter commercial, the Juan Camilo Ronderos impression of him, that was him accepting the fight against David Dvorak. That was a classic impression. I don't do them often, and the reason I don't is because I try to really only give it to you guys when I've got it absolutely nailed. Like my guy Justin J just said, swear to God, dead ringer. I mean, like the hair, the accent, it's absolutely perfect. So yeah, I try to nail these impressions when I can, and I appreciate that you guys like it as much as I do. It means a lot. It really does. We got Antonio Esparza saying, am I crazy to think Brady at plus 380 for sub on FanDuel is kind of high? 0% he finishes by knockout. Yeah, dude, that's right. Nobody's knocking out fucking Kelvin Gastelum unless they let you bring a fucking baseball bat into the cage. So with Brady, with his money line right now at what, like minus 130-ish? Is that what it is? Sean Brady, minus 125 on DraftKings. So if we were to go minus 125, that is a 55.56% implied probability. Plus 380 is a 20.83% probability. And if we say, now, of course, the KO is not a 0% chance. These are two dudes fighting in a cage. Anything could fucking happen. Brady could take him down, just get him in a spot where he can't move. And he doesn't necessarily knock him out, but the ref stops him, But let's just say that there's a 0% chance of knockout. Then what you're saying is that of that 55%, 20% is that win condition. So we could take 0.2083 and we could divide it by 0.5556. And what that's saying is that 37% of his win condition, 37.5%, would be the submission. And I think that that's a pretty good thought because, like, he does have an absolutely crushing top game. Nobody's ever knocked out Kelvin Gastelum before. So, yeah, plus 380 for Brady by submission. That bet gets the Uncle Weezy, bam, stamp of approval because I think it's absolutely one of Brady's best win conditions besides just a decision where he does get takedowns, gets to the back, but doesn't necessarily finish with the submission. We got Immaculaton 3 saying, if Sean Brady has no hands, how does he beat the in-shape Kelvin Nasrat Akbarastalum? Dude, it's crazy how much he looks like Nasrat and how much Nasrat looks like him. And it's funny now that Kelvin has lost weight and he's going from 185 to 170, it's no longer people saying that like Haqparast is mini Gastelum. Now they're saying that Gastelum looks like Haqparast because he's the one losing weight. And it's wild. I mean, like the resemblance between those two guys it's hilarious. It's crazy. Dude from Afghanistan and a dude from who's from Mexican descent who I think was born in Arizona, looking exactly alike. It's hilarious. Matt saying, Weez, log in, let me see that bankroll. LOL. Nah, man, we don't need to see the bankroll on this. That's why I keep myself logged out of all the websites while we're on the shows, man. No reason to show that information. We got MMA punters in the room. What's up, dude? Saying Stoltzfus is getting his ass shaved. Yeah, probably in the first 2 rounds. And there was one piece of information that was kind of bugging me, and that was when Stoltzfus fought Vieira, I think a lot of people thought, oh, Vieira's got to get Stoltzfus out of there in the first or second round, otherwise he's going to gas out. But Stoltzfus isn't dangerous. So it's not like Puna has to go out there and be like, oh, if I don't get this dude out of there in the first round with a big left, then he's gonna just like he's gonna kill me. You know, you don't have to worry about that with Stoltzfus. You can kind of take your time with him because he's not going to have anything incredibly dangerous for you anywhere the fight goes. Although he does have a kind of a tricky submission game when he gets fights to the ground. So, you know, I still think Puna probably gets this job done in the first in the first or second round, but he might also be able to pace himself a little bit more than he would against most other opponents here, and maybe, you know, take his time a little bit more than we're used to seeing him. But I think the most likely result is that Puna gets the job done in round 1 or 2. And Matt R saying that Bobby Green fights go over. And yep, except for the Iaquinta fight, the most recent one against Dawson, and then he had another and then the Gordon fight because of the clash of heads. And I think there was one other one recently that went under. Gordon, Dawson, Makachev, obviously, Dober, and then Iaquinta. And then you look before the Iaquinta fight, 3 rounds, 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 3 rounds. 1 round against Dustin Poirier. He got knocked out by Poirier. 3, 3, 3. 1 round against he knocked out James Krause in 1 round, and then 3, 3, 3, 3. Yeah, so Bobby Green's seen a lot of decisions, but recently the Dawson fight, 33 seconds. The Gordon fight, no contest because of a head clash. The Dober fight, just a little bit over the 7.5-minute mark. And then the Makachev fight, 3:23 into round 1. He took that one on short notice. He was outgunned. And then he knocked out Long Island's best realtor, Raging Al Iaquinta, in the very first round. So, yeah, but they mostly do go over. Absolutely. Yeah, and happy belated birthday to our guy, Lou Betcha. We got Matt R saying Lou Betcha equals Michael Vick comeback story. Well, we're saying not Lou Betcha. Lou Betcha hasn't done anything horrible that he needs to come back from like Mike Vick. We're saying that Cody Brundage is going to be the comeback story this week when he gets that win over Zach Reese, but we'll see how it shakes out. We got the Meta Human Project in the room saying, striking-wise, Dariush has more power, but in my opinion, not necessarily a better overall striker than Arman. Yeah, I mean, they're both good, though, right? They're both very good, and we've got a little more tape of Beneil just going back longer than we have of Arman Tsarukyan. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not I'm not saying he's like a way better striker or anything like that. I'm just saying we probably have more evidence to suggest that Dariush might be the better striker here, but he's also, like I said, he's chinnier, he's older, less durable, you know, and he's less explosive than what Arman is. Yeah, dude, and SC Music Ranch saying the same thing was me. You know, like lots of underdogs in this card are viable. You know, it just depends. Who knows which ones are actually going to come through, but that's always the tricky part. But there are guys that have paths to victory. We got Meta Human Project saying the last 2 cards did a lot of faves have hit, but I'm not sure dogs are barking this card. I like the over-unders on this card rather than the money line bets. Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding any money line bets I like that are juiced here. I just think they're all a little bit overpriced, but I kind of feel like this might be a week where I take like 1 unit, just 1 unit, and I just take my 4 favorite underdogs that I think have paths to victory here, and I bet them all for a quarter unit. Like Dariush, Bobby Green, if Jalen doesn't look good on the scales. Clay Guida, I think, is actually live to win minutes with the wrestling or even land a big shot because Silva is very, very chinny. And I even think Stoltzfus could be a little bit live, but I think that Puna would just have to look terrible. And Brundage, fucking Brundage is live. I mean, he can out wrestle this guy. We know that Brundage is a very, very good wrestler, training at a great camp. He's made that walk so many times before. So yeah, very interesting there. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of underdogs that I could pull off here that I think, like, if I put a quarter unit on 4 different guys on Even like Steve Garcia, just because, you know, he's got a ton of power. Cody Brundage, Clay Guida, Jalen Turner, and Beneil Dariush. I think probably one or two of those guys hit, you know? So, yeah. What's my favorite 6-leg parlay for prize picks? Okay. So definitely Wellington Turman over 1.5 takedowns. We'll go with Melk Costa, less than 7.5 minutes of fight time. Let's see here. Kind of like that Jalen Turner under 10.5 minutes of fight time. Let's bring out the significant strikes template and see what we can find. Let's just look at Let's just look at heat maps here. All right. So one of the things that it did like was Jalen Turner under 53.5 significant strikes, because Bobby Green fights do go over. But Jalen has only landed more than that number 3 out of 10 times. The winning fighter in a lightweight fight has only landed over 53.5 significant strikes 33.25% of the time. The loser only lands at about half that, about 16.38% of the time. So the expected value would be about 27.63% that a chance that a lightweight covers that number with a 66.67% winning percentage. I've got a prediction here of about 45. That yellow number you see on the right there, that's my number that I'm seeing is, you know, a prediction for how many strikes will be landed in this fight. Font Figueiredo really likes Font under 65.5 significant strikes. And I think the reason of that is, first of all, Davison Figueiredo, in his 7 fights that have been scheduled for 3 rounds, he's never absorbed more than that many significant strikes. And Font has only landed that many 3 of 12 fights. And Figueiredo is a guy who's extremely low volume and a counter striker. So he might actually slow down Font's volume. And after we saw Font get so easily taken down and controlled by Corey Sandhagen, we might see Figueiredo grapple a lot in this spot. So let's add under 65.5 significant strikes for Rob Font. Under 65.5. Let's bring up that template, see if we can find something else. Brady Gastelum. Definitely kind of likes the under for Brady. Soriano Stoltzfus. Definitely kind of likes the under for Soriano Stoltzfus. Kind of like the under there. Reese Brundage. I don't know. Close Selecki. Drakkar Close has landed more than 42.5 significant strikes 6 out of 9 times. That's pretty good. But Selecki, you know, Joe Selecki's fights, if you look at these numbers right here, actually, let me do this. I'll do that, right? Look at those numbers. He's only landing he's only absorbing 1.59 significant strikes per minute. He absorbs 4.67 distance strikes per minute, but only 0.64 clinch and ground strikes per minute. And the key is Joe Selecki only spends 23.5% of his cage time at distance. So that means he spends over 75% of his time grappling. When we look at the division here, you could see that 2.17 clinch and ground strikes are landed on average per minute. 4.59, though, are landed at distance. So less than half as many on average significant strikes are landed in the clinch and the ground. And I think that this fight's going to be in the clinch and on the ground. Now, Close does land a lot in the clinch, but I think this fight's going to the ground because Selecki's a very good grappler. So even though the data doesn't love it, I think it's because this is a stylistic thing. And I think if Selecki gets his way, 42.5 significant strikes for Drakkar Klose is going to be very difficult, because we've only seen Selecki absorb more than that once in his UFC career, and I believe it was the Jared Gordon fight. So I kind of like the Drakkar Klose under 42.5. Melky Costa 45.5, huh? Man, with a 7.5 minute over under, but we've already got Mel Costa under 7.5 minutes. Bellato versus Paterier, 27 significant strikes. So that's about where it should be. Turman Gooden kind of likes the over there for Wellington Turman. What does he land? 1.35. I don't think I like that either. Hardy Horth, 55.5 significant strikes. Yeah, so let me see here. So we've got 3 legs. We're going Font less, Turman more than 1.5 takedowns, Milk Costa less than 7.5 minutes fight time, Sean Brady more than 1.5 takedowns is interesting. We're going to go Veronica Hardy under 64.5 fantasy score. And I'll show you why. If we go to our prize picks analytics, this is a women's flyweight fight. And we can go down to our prize picks fantasy score for 3 rounds. We got 66.5. And in order to hit that number, you basically have to win the fight. 83.67% of winners score more than 66.5 of fantasy points on prize picks, but only 7.65% of losers. And right now, she's 7.65% times her losing percentage right now, which is 33%. Or I'm sorry, times 67.67%, because Horth is minus 200. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I don't like this. I think that 66.5 under or 64.5 under for Hardy is good. That's a 4-legger. I would say take the under for fantasy points for Jalen Turner if he looks like shit on the scales. And anything else for fight time that I like? I think we could do Joaquim Silva less than 12.5 minutes fight time. So that's what I'll give you. Those are 5 legs. Wellington Turman more than 1.5 takedowns. Melk Costa less than 7.5 minutes of fight time. Font less than 65.5 significant strikes. Hardy less than 64.5 fantasy score. Joaquim Silva less than 12.5 fight time. That's 5 legs. You can add your 6th. And this is the link here to the how to use the new advanced stats video. And these are the advanced stats. So it'll tell you how to use this and how to read all the acronyms and get the most possible information out of it. If you were to sign up for the Patreon, that's where you would find the information to make the best use of these phenomenal stats that I offer to the MMA betting community. Ring a ding, ding, you guys. Fellow Sigma Chi brother, my guy Nigel Lee, a.k.a. at Money Bank Lock, saying, oi, Weezy in chat. Joaquim Silva by sub plus 300. 9 of 20 of Guida's L's by sub. And Silva, a legit BJJ black belt. Never had a UFC sub. 3 of 12 Silva's wins by sub. Yeah, I like the sub prop. Our guy Clay Guida has been submitted 11 times in his pro career. So, and Neto BJJ is a high-level black belt. It's just that he's not a wrestler, but Clay's a wrestler. So Clay, if he tries to take him down, will put himself in a position where this guy could get a submission. And I think it's a great bet, Nigel Lee. Thank you for helping keep the lights on here in your Uncle Weezy's office. And thank you for the donation. And that bet gets the Uncle Weezy stamp of approval at plus 300. I like it, man. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, you have my $20 video tier. So what you have then is you're looking at the prop template here. And the prop template, all this does here is these here are your betting lines. These here are the betting line is moved into an implied probability, Matt. So minus 150 converts to a 60% implied probability. These numbers here in row 11 are the divisional benchmarks for each for each possible bet. So in the men's lightweight division, we've got the fight doesn't go to decision. That happens 51.13% of the time. And conversely, 48.88% of the time, the fight does go to decision. Under 2.5 happens 46.88% of the time in the division. And we basically we compare this number to this number to get these numbers. And then we also take these two numbers, we add them up. That's a combined percentage in row 19 of both fighters, Jalen Turner and Bobby Green, and how many times their fights finished inside the distance, how many times their fights finished under 2.5 rounds. And then we compare those numbers to the implied probability of the line. This number, 45.16 minus 60, gives us negative 14.84%. So it's just saying that the line is overpriced. But I will make a video as well for the prop template that explains how to use it, explains what a trifecta bet is, and explains all the metrics that we compare to each other. I thank you for the questions, Matt. We got Fight Talk Only, my guy in the room, saying, what's up, T.O. Weezy? I appreciate everything you do, Unc. Keep being great. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for what you're doing out there on Twitter for the community. Appreciate you, my man. And we will be talking soon. We got JP Taylor in the room saying, this card's lacking in overall value, in my opinion. I do think Font's chin is on thin ice, but Figueiredo moving up, so I'm questioning it. Not confident on anything here, really. JP, I've only got 3 units in bets myself, so I'm not running to the window for anything, and there's no reason to force it if we're not feeling it. So, we get as much information as we can bring in, and if we find stuff that we like enough to pull the trigger, that's what we do. But man, the bookies have to make lines, but we don't have to bet them. My guy Victor saying, hey, I'm getting stupid busy at work. Won't be able to ask any more questions or chat at all, but I'll be here listening. Thank you for an awesome show. Good luck this weekend. Good luck to you, Vic. I appreciate you hanging out. I appreciate the donation. And yeah, we will keep doing the show here and let you know if there's anything else that we see sticking out, my man. Always a pleasure to have you in here, man. We got Antonio Esparza saying, I know the price isn't that good, but thoughts on Puna plus 125 by KO on FanDuel? That's his only way to win. Yeah, I mean, he could maybe snatch up a submission as well. He's a judo guy. He's got some submissions. He's got 2 wins by submission in his career. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Puna's win condition is first or second round knockout. Yeah, plus 125 if you're feeling it. There's nothing wrong with it. But what I would rather do, Antonio, is just take that plus 107 for that we got here. Soriano method. No, it was round. The group of rounds, winner and group of rounds. Soriano rounds 1 and 2 plus 112. So now that includes the submission, and it just takes out 3rd round KO. And I mean, Soriano's never won a fight past 30 seconds of round 2. So asking him to win a fight in round 3 is something that's really not really in his skill set. So I think if you go rounds 1 and 2 for Soriano at just a little bit more expensive of a price, I think that's a better bet. And thoughts on Figgy Font rounds over under 2.5 rounds. So Font Figueiredo over 2.5 minus 110, under 2.5 minus 120. Font's fights go under 2.5 rounds, 8 of 12 times. Figueiredo, it's 4 of 7 in 3-round fights. That means 12 of 19 or 63.16% of their fights have went under 2.5 rounds. Font is so durable, but Figgy is also durable. I think this goes over. Yeah, I think maybe Figgy could get a submission. He's a very opportunistic submission grappler. And yeah, Font's chin's starting to worry me a little bit. He's definitely taken some big shots, but is he gonna get knocked out by a flyweight is the question. So yeah, I don't mind the over 2.5. You're overpaying by almost 12% when you compare the price of the line at 54.55% to the under 2.5 rate for the bantamweight division, which is less than 43%. But 63.16% of these guys combined 19 fights are going under 2.5 rounds. So it looks like, according to the fighter performance, the under is the bet. According to the overall division, it's the over that's the bet. So I guess it just depends. But I mean, my prop template, I would say, likes this under a little bit more than it likes the over. Joaquim Silva got knocked out by Ricky fucking Glenn, and he's minus 340 against Clay. What am I missing? That's the same thing that I said, man. I mean, like, I get it, dude. Clay's almost 42 years old, you guys. I mean, that's huge. You know, I mean, like, where these guys are in their careers is a big part of how much people are willing to lay in terms of juice. You know, it's so much easier to lay juice when you think that the fighter doesn't have to be great to win, because they're fighting somebody that you think is completely washed and completely done for. And I think that's what the market's seeing. But I see a guy that can out wrestle Joaquim Silva. I see a guy that can land one shot and Silva could wind up sleeping, just like he did against a guy that I think fucking Clay Guida would be a favorite against Ricky Glenn right now, the way that Ricky Glenn has looked lately. So yeah, I mean, I don't agree with the line either. I think there's value on Clay Guida. Sean Brady over 1.5 takedowns is a lock. Brady, DFS by the numbers, that was the prop he gave out on the DFS show when we do our little prize pick segment. So you can add Sean Brady over 1.5 takedowns in there if you want, Matt R. I think that's a great one as well, dude. I think that if he wins this fight, he's going to need at least 2 takedowns. And that's a lot of time on one topic. Yeah, it is. It is. Matt saying that's not what I'm talking about. It's cool. I'll ask you about it in the Discord for sure. All right, that's cool. We got Tristan saying, would you take Drakkar Klose at a pick'em? No. I still think there's, I mean, I've got a bet on his opponent Selecki to win by decision at plus 275. I'm worried about Klose's long layoff and the knee injury. You know, he's coming off a knee reconstruction. We haven't seen him fight in over a year. He had the thing when he got shoved by Jeremy Stevens that he got, I think, a concussion because of that. There's some questions left to be answered about Klose, and I think that this fight's going to answer the questions for the on the Klose side, which need answering, because we haven't seen enough of this dude lately. But I do think that we can count on Selecki to dirty this fight up, to get the fight to the ground, to get to Drakkar Klose's back. I just think Drakkar's got a really bad habit of giving up his back. Gave it up to Dariush. He gave it up to Rafa Garcia. He's given it up to multiple different people. And if you do that to Selecki, he stays there for the rest of the round and potentially submits you. So I do think Selecki wins. And I think that if I was on that Drakkar Klose side, a pick'em is not a bad price if you think he's going to win the fight, obviously. But I just don't think that I think I need more information in order to be confident about the Klose side. Let's see. Soriano is going to be a piece of carrot cake compared to Pyfer. Stoltzfus ego. Well, yeah, I mean, like, I guess that's a good point. I mean, he beat Joe Pyfer. A lot of people forget that Stoltzfus beat Joe Pyfer. So, you know, we'll see. That's what Stoltzfus ego is saying right now. But, you know, it's going to be interesting. Soriano's not very good, you guys. He's just not. He doesn't have great conditioning, and that's a problem at this level. And, you know, when you rely on landing that big shot and the big shot doesn't find its home, and then you don't have a plan B or a plan C, that's a bad situation to be in at the UFC level. So we got Tsarukyan saying I see Silva by sub at plus 420 on my books. I feel like that's a good value bet. I agree, absolutely. That's how Guida loses. You don't see Guida getting knocked out really. You see him getting submitted. So I think that would be the way to play it. I think that's worth a sprinkle. Absolutely. We got Antonio Esparza saying I'm thoughts on the fight to go to distance for Armin Benny at only plus 144. Dude, there's no way. I thought that was minus 300 for fight doesn't go to decision. All right, so fight, yeah, plus 160. It's plus 160 for fight goes on Bet Online. So that's a much better price. You could see the fight going all 25 minutes. See, here's the thing, right? It's a 5-round fight. Tsarukyan's been 5 rounds once and it went to full 5. Dariush has never been scheduled for 5 in the UFC. But in their 3-round fights, Beneil Dariush, 13 of 22 fights have finished inside the distance. For Tsarukyan, it's 3 of 8. So 53.33% of their combined fights. Actually, it would be a little bit higher than that because Tsarukyan's one fight that was scheduled for 5, that also went the distance. So only 50. So you'd be underpaying a little bit at plus money, but it's a 5-round fight. It's not a 3-round fight. And Dariush has been finished in all of his losses. So I don't think plus 144 is juicy enough. I'd like to get something closer to plus 200 for that, Antonio. But I get it. If it's your stylistic read, it's not the best, or it's not the worst play because in this division, wow, fight doesn't go to decision 72.5% of the time in the lightweight division. So we get a lot of finishes in 5-round fights. So only 27.45% of lightweight fights go to decision. So that is that's not nearly enough. You'd be expecting to get something like plus 300 at a number like that. So definitely not good enough. Do I think going down to 170 will affect Kelvin in a bad way? I think getting a hungry and motivated Brady at only minus 120 could be the steal of the night. Yeah, it potentially could be, especially if he gets takedowns. I mean, if Brady gets to the grappling exchanges to dominant positions against anybody in the division, he's going to look like a steal at minus 120. That's the big if, though. Kelvin moves pretty well. He's pretty explosive. He can be in and out pretty quickly, and he's got good footwork. So it might be difficult for a guy like Brady, who doesn't really pressure on the feet in the big cage, to kind of cut Kelvin off, find that open mat takedown, or get to the cage wrestling, which is really what he needs to do. It's going to be more difficult for him in the big cage. So, but if he does, then yeah, he's going to look like an absolute steal. I think it's going to affect Kelvin in a positive way to be back down to his natural weight class, which was always his natural weight class. He just wasn't disciplined. Now that he's over at Fight Ready, he's getting the discipline that he needs. And those guys are they've got weight cuts dialed in, fitness dialed in. When you train at Fight Ready, they also have another facility where they do really high level conditioning type stuff and give you the best way to cut weight and all this stuff. They've got some Fight Ready's really ahead of the curve when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be good for Gastelum. I'm picking him to win the fight, but I have no bets on that fight because it's so easy to see it going in multiple directions due to how good both of those guys are. And Tristan saying, yeah, that's understandable. And he's the older guy. Do I like Kelvin's chances as well? Yeah, I mean, I think Kelvin's going to win the fight, but Tristan, it's one of those things, right? If he stays in the middle of the cage at distance striking range, Brady's still a good striker, but I think Kelvin will be better. I think he'll be more dangerous. I think he'll be landing the bigger shots, and I think he's faster than Sean in the striking. But dude, if Sean Brady gets a couple of takedowns, he's going to look minus 250. And you got to really ask yourself, do I think that Kelvin can stop the takedowns? Do I think he has good enough footwork in order to, keep moving enough that Sean cannot get his back up to the cage? Has to shoot for singles and doubles in the middle of the cage, which are going to be harder to get because Sean's so strong. He does better in the clinch up against that cage. He has phenomenal cage wrestling. So I do like Kelvin's chances, but like I say, I don't have the balls to bet it, because if he gets taken down in the first 30 seconds of round one, I might just leave the fucking room and be like, this is fucking over, So it's a terrifying fight to bet, man. We got my guy Brady saying I might put a full unit on Silva sub at plus 420. Only spot really sticking out for me this week. Yeah, the reason you're getting such a good price on it, Brady, is because Silva's never finished any fights by submission, but it's a Clay Guida fight. 11 career losses by submission, and Clay kind of has to wrestle here in order to win the minutes of this fight, because he's not a good enough striker to beat Silva on the feet, and Silva's going to be way more powerful. So yeah, I mean, I think Silva sub is at 420. I mean, that's a great spot, dude. And a full unit be a ballsy bet, but fortune favors the bold, my friend. And a 4.2 unit win would be a huge win this week. Real Fight Pick saying Selecki gassed after the first round against Jared Gordon. If Close can survive round one, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, that's very true. It's very true, because Selecki is going to have to grapple. But don't forget, Selecki got the takedown off of Gordon in the second round as well. It was just that Gordon got a good reverse and wound up getting on top and winning the second half of the round. And in the third round, actually Selecki was slowed down. There wasn't nearly enough, as much movement as we see from him when he's at distance striking range. But he definitely was toe-to-toe with Jared Gordon in the third round, a guy known for having really good conditioning. And that third round was as close as it could possibly be. So I still think Selecki, even though he got tired and slowed down, not noticeably enough, because we're not going to compare Drakkar Klose's grappling to Jared Gordon's. We're just not going to do that. Jared Gordon's a better grappler than Drakkar Klose is. So I do believe that this is a good spot for Joe Selecki. But like you say, man, if he gets tired, Drakkar Klose has got phenomenal conditioning, and he always has. So that will be a problem for him. Can you explain why the odds for the decision prop is so wide for Figgy Font? Font to win by decision plus 195, Figgy plus 420. Why is it so wide, you think? Well, it's always going to be wider when you see closely lined fights, right? Because if you say a closely lined fight, let's say they're both minus 110, which puts them at about 53% implied probability. Well, then you got to split that 53% up into 3 different win conditions: decision, submission, knockout. So now, you'll see a lot fatter props, or, when you got a closely lined fight, because now you're not splitting 75% on the favorite up into 3 things where you've got 1 win condition, which is maybe most of it, so that you might actually paying, minus money for it. So yeah, you're going to see fatter decision props when you got fights that are closely lined, like Font Figueiredo, where Font's minus 140, Figueiredo's plus 120. And yeah, Font at decision plus 195. I think that's very interesting, because Figgy's a durable guy who doesn't really get knocked out. And the times that he has been finished, one was a cut stoppage, and another, and both of those fights where he did get finished were brutal weight cuts for him. So I think at 135, you're not going to see him getting tired, him dying because of a brutal weight cut. So I think that those are bettable lines, both of them. Do I like the under? Yeah, I do. I do like that at plus 230, Tristan. I think there's a lot of meat on that bone. Jamie Lynn Horth has finished 5 of her 6 wins. She's got nasty kicks, and she's got a very opportunistic submission game. So I think at plus 230, because it's such a fat line, because you can put less money on it than you would usually put on a juiced line, let's say, I think it's a bettable line. Plus 195 for fight doesn't go, plus 230 for the under 2.5. I think they're both bettable lines. Antonio Esparza saying, say Turner misses weight and looks bad on the scales. How would you see Green winning that fight? Green by KO at plus 500 on FanDuel. Yeah, I could see Green by KO, absolutely. And I could see Green by decision. But what I would do is I would just bet 1 unit on the money line, because then I'm getting a 2-1 on Bobby Green, and that's good enough for me. I don't have to choose how he gets it done, you know? So if he does look like trash on the scales, I think the green money line is going to be something that I'm targeting. And silver by sub on 420. Okay, that's on FanDuel. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I couldn't log into my FanDuel account today. It was weird. So I'm going to have to take a look at that. But yeah, silver by sub at plus 420. That's extremely intriguing. And that's definitely got my attention. 45 of you guys in here live. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out here on a Wednesday night edition of Ask Weezy. The UFC Austin card's a fun one. I hope we all stack cash tickets like flapjacks. Keep an eye out here on Friday on your Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel. I'm going to come out with this week's greasy 4-leg parlay. We hit out of 3 out of 4 last week. Charles Johnson's money line was the one that did not come through for us. We're going to look to try to get back on a winning streak with the greasy 4-leg parlay. So check me out Friday afternoon after weigh-ins for the greasy 4-leg parlay, and then enjoy the fights. UFC Austin on Saturday. Let's all stack cash tickets like flapjacks so that we can enjoy watching these fights. Coming off a nice winning week 2 weeks ago, looking to finish this year with a 3-week winning streak. Starting UFC Austin, then next week a little fight night card in Vegas with only 10 fights, and then UFC 296 to end the year. Kadim Mbaye saying, Unc, am I in the data analytics science field? So I recently went back to college. I got a degree in statistics. I've done some data science, obviously in school, and I've passed 3 actuarial exams, but I was unable to find a job. So I tried to get into the data analytics science field, but what I did was instead came to YouTube and used my personality and the data that I had available to me to build this YouTube channel so that I could work for you guys instead of some jerk off corporation. So my guy Kiwi saying cheers, appreciate it. So yeah, never was able to get into that data science field, but I'm doing data science that I love right now, working with the MMA data that I have and doing it for you guys. Join that Patreon at the address that you see down there. That helps, support the work that I work very hard to put out for you guys here on YouTube for free. Thank you to Nigel Lee for the donation. Thank you to my guy Victor De Jesus for the donation. Immaculaton saying, thanks, Weezy. Great show. We got Kadeem saying, okay. Appreciate you guys for watching. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And please leave me a comment down below and consider joining the Patreon. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Austin. Good night, everyone.